Part 1. We are so excited to welcome you, and we hope you learn a lot today and ask every question that you have in your mind. Before we begin, I have some housekeeping notes to cover. I have a few. First, we will be recording today's presentation. To minimize interruptions, participants' cameras and microphones have been disabled. Please note that only presentation portion will be recorded, not the Q&A. We will also be disabling the chat during the presentation. For the Q&A, we'll turn on the function in Zoom so you can submit your questions there. We will enable this feature at the end of the presentation, so please hold your questions until then. I also want to clarify the scope of today's session. The panel's expertise is focused on the topics that you see on the screen right here. We have both undergraduate and graduate students with us, so please listen carefully to make sure you're noting the information that is most relevant to you. And if you have any questions outside of these topics, we will do our best to direct you to the appropriate resources. And finally, a quick reminder about our code of conduct. Even though many of you are joining from home, this social session is an SFU's educational space, and SFU student conduct policy still applies. That means we all commit to engaging respectfully and being considerate of others throughout the session. Okay, so with all of that our way, let's start the main presentation. Hello and welcome everyone. We are so excited to have you join us. And yeah, let's begin with our official presentation, that is Student Orientation Part 1. First off, beginning off with a land acknowledgement, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that Simon Fraser University is located on the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Quechua, Coquitlam, Quechat, Kwantlen, Simiamu, and Tuasin nations. What I've just shared is a land acknowledgement. Some of you may be familiar with the concept of land acknowledgements, while it may be something new for others. We acknowledge the land to honor the indigenous people who have lived and worked on this land historically and presently, and to also insert an awareness of land rights in this settler colonial society. Moving forward to the agenda slide, we'll be covering our first topic, that is immigration requirements after the panelists' introduction. And second topic will be medical insurance requirements. And last but not the least, we'll have campus resources for well-being, and at the end, a live Q&A session. Beginning off with the introduction, I'll introduce myself first. Hello, everyone. My name is Akshita. I'm the International Student Engagement Lead with International Services for Students, currently here as a co-op student. I am currently in my third year at the BD School of Business, and I'm so excited to welcome you all today to our upcoming Welcome Social in person. Passing it on to Karen for her introduction.
Hi, everyone. My name is Karen. I'm one of the international student advisors and immigration specialists here at SFU and in the International Services for Students office. And yeah, welcome to the SFU community. As a former international student myself, I always really enjoy doing these sessions, and we are very excited to welcome you to our community. I'll pass it over to Ashani.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. And hi, everyone. My name is Ashani. I'm an International Student Experience Coordinator with the SFU International Services for Students team as well. I was also a former international student at SFU, so I'm always really excited to welcome new international students to the community. So thank you all for being here. It's a small group, which is great because we can get all your questions answered hopefully at the end. So thank you all for being here. And I'll pass it on to Ricky as well.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. My name is Ricky. I work here at Health and Counseling, providing supports to our students, both undergrad and graduate. So I'm super excited to be here and support your journey here at SFU. I'll return it back to Ashika.
Thank you to all the panelists for their lovely introductions, and let's move forward to the introduction of our office, International Services for Students, or in short that we call ISS. ISS is a key resource for international students at SFU. Our team consists of regulated Canadian immigration consultants, such as Karen, who is with us on the panel today. And these advisors are licensed to provide you with advice related to your study permits and visas and your eligibility to work in Canada. We also offer advice on medical insurance and navigating the Canadian healthcare system. We also offer transition support to new students through events and programming. And also, ISS office administers our study abroad programs such as international exchanges and field schools. And last but not the least, we also offer unique support to refugee and newcomer communities. And talking about how to connect with our advisors, you can connect with our team in multiple ways. We offer both in person and virtual appointments at all three SFU campuses. And you can also get in touch with us through the email. And please feel free to scan this QR code so that information is handy with you at all times. And moving forward to our website, finally a website, it has a wealth of resources on various topics relevant to international students, which you guys can explore yourselves. One of the resources I would like to highlight today are the welcome guides specific to international students. We have 5 guides tailored for the different international pathways, and they all come with a downloadable step-by-step checklist of what you should do depending on your category to ensure you won't miss anything important as you transition to SFU. We also have instruction guides and other topical information relevant to international students. So we highly recommend you to explore our website and also scan this QR code side by side. Okay, coming on to my favorite part. We have a dedicated space for international students called the Global Students Center, which we also refer to as the GSC. GSC is more than just a space on campus. It's a welcoming hub designed to support international students and help you feel connected. We host a variety of social events and offer drop-in partner services like career advising, academic writing support, wellness guidance, and a lot more. All of this is designed to make it easier for you to find community, access support, and feel home at SFU. As an international student myself, the GSC has played a big role in my journey here. Moving to a new country and adjusting to a completely new system can be very overwhelming, and the GSC has made my earlier days so much easier. It wasn't really just about the practical help, it was the sense of belonging. And most importantly, the GSC has given me the confidence to get involved and give back. And that's why it feels so meaningful to be here today, now on the other side, supporting students just like me. So I encourage you to join events happening at the GSC and come say hi to us when you start in the summer. And also, I urge you to take a moment to scan this QR to learn more about what GSC has to offer to you. Okay, with that, we'll now talk about immigration requirements, and we have Karen on the panel who is going to share her valuable insights on that. So Karen, I have my first question to you is what immigration documents do I need to study at SFU?
Thanks, Sakshita. And before I begin answering this first question, I would like to draw everyone's attention to the disclaimer that you'll see at the top left of each of my slides. Canadian immigration policy continues to change rapidly and without notice. And so the information that we share today is current as of today, which for those of you who are watching the recording is March the 26th, 2026. And I also just want to preface my presentation by saying you do not have to remember everything that we tell you here today. Today's session is meant to be an overview of some important concepts, questions, and contacts, and our teams will be here for you throughout your studies, and you can connect with us whenever you have questions, need help, or when you're not sure where to turn. So now let's get to the question. Most international students require a study permit to study at SFU. And depending on your country of citizenship, you may also need a visa or an electronic travel authorization to travel to Canada. So if we look at the travel documents section of this slide, you will see 2 documents or travel authorizations are listed: a temporary resident visa or TRV, and the Electronic Travel Authorization or ETA. The TRV is also sometimes referred to as a student visa, and it's a document required by visa-required citizens to travel to Canada. The ETA, on the other hand, is an electronic travel authorization that is required for most TRV-exempt foreign nationals, with some exceptions, and that one would be linked to your passport. Both of these, the TRV and the ETA, they do not give the holder immigration status in Canada, but instead, like I mentioned, they're travel documents or travel authorizations. They would automatically be issued to you if you applied for your study permit outside of Canada and your application is approved by Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. So moving on to the study permit, this one is your immigration status document, meaning it gives you temporary immigration status in Canada as an international student. And most importantly, it allows you to pursue your studies at SFU, right? And to remain in Canada for a specified period of time. If you will be traveling to Canada for the very first time in the summer 2026 term, and your outside Canada study permit application has been approved, you're actually going to receive your permit upon entering Canada after an examination at the border with a border services officer. I hope that helps to answer that question.
That was a very clear answer. Thank you so much for that. And moving on to our second question. I have a study permit from my previous Canadian school. Do I need to apply for a new study permit?
This is a very good question and a timely question. As you know, many of you are maybe coming to SFU from another Canadian Designated Learning Institution or DLI. And if that's the case, as of November the 8th, 2024, IRCC introduced a new process for study permit holders to follow if they are changing from one DLI to another DLI. Study permit holders now must be enrolled at the DLI named on their study permit. So if you are currently in Canada with a study permit issued based on studies at another DLI, you would need to apply for and be approved for an SFU study permit before you can begin your studies at SFU. To apply for your SFU study permit, the application process you would follow would largely depend on where you are applying. So if you were a study permit holder in Canada and applying for your SFU study permit from here, you would follow the in Canada study permit extension process. Whereas if you are outside of Canada applying for your study permit from outside, you would follow the instructions for making a new study permit application, the outside Canada process. And one other thing I wanted to highlight is that if you are coming to SFU from a Canadian high school and you apply for your SFU study permit from within Canada via the study permit extension application process, while your high school study permit is still valid, IRCC indicates that you may begin your SFU study while waiting for a decision on your SFU study permit. If there are ever any questions about this, you can always reach out to our team because I know it's a lot of information. We can move to the next question whenever you're ready.
Sure. I'm applying for my SFU study permit. Do I need a provincial attestation letter?
So unless exempted, study permit applicants are required to include a provincial attestation letter or a territorial attestation letter in their study permit application. Here in BC, students requiring one would be issued a provincial attestation letter, and we call it PAL for short. The current list of PAL exceptions can be found on the IRCC website, and I've included a QR code to that page on this slide for you to review. And I just wanted to highlight a few examples of when a PAL is needed for a study permit application, as you'll see here on this slide. So the first example is if you are a study permit holder inside Canada and you're applying for an SFU study permit from here to change schools, you would require a PAL in most cases. Students who are also changing their level of study generally require a PAL. And in the unfortunate situations where someone might receive a study permit refusal and they are required to include a PAL in their application, they would need a brand new PAL in order to reapply for a study permit. I also wanted to highlight that as of January 1st of this year, 2026, if you are applying for a study permit to study in a master's or PhD program, degree-seeking program at SFU, you're actually PAL exempt, so no PAL needed for those study permit applications. Students often will ask us, well, what steps do I need to complete to get my PAL, right? Because it's not always so clear as it is a new process. And while our office does not issue the PALs at SFU, I have included a QR code on this slide, which explains the steps that must be completed in order for new SFU students to get their PAL. So please do review that if you're still kind of waiting for your PAL to be issued. We can move to the next one.
Okay. Do study permit holders have to study full-time every term?
This is always a very common and kind of complex question that students will ask us. And before I get going, I would recommend visiting our enrollment requirements website. The QR code is on this page, just to familiarize yourself with the full-time definition at SFU for undergraduate and graduate students. The definition is different for undergraduate students and graduate students here at the university. And I think it is important to get used to this definition as you prepare for your course planning for now and in future terms. So when we look at your enrollment in a particular term, whether you're studying full-time or you're studying part-time, this affects your ability to work, your ability to study, and your ability, in some cases, to stay in Canada after you complete your studies. We will talk a bit more about working in Canada during your studies just in a little bit, but for now, we're going to focus on your study permit and the conditions you need to adhere to as a study permit holder. As a study permit holder, you are expected to actively pursue your studies in Canada. And from the perspective of IRCC, what this means is that you must remain enrolled in each formal academic session or term during your studies, and also make reasonable, timely progress towards the completion of your program of study. When we talk about formal academic terms, for SFU undergraduate students, the spring term and the fall term are considered the formal academic terms or the formal academic sessions. And for SFU graduate students, the spring, summer, and fall terms are all considered formal academic terms or academic sessions. To be considered actively pursuing studies as required by IRCC, you can be enrolled in a full-time or occasionally a part-time credit load from the perspective of your study permit. But with this being said, part-time study can impact your eligibility to work on campus, off campus, and possibly impact your future post-graduation work permit eligibility if that's something that you're interested in. Studying part-time can also have, non-immigration related impacts or considerations. So we always recommend to consult with the applicable SFU departments at SFU, like residence and housing, for example, financial aid and awards, to explore those considerations if you do plan to drop down to part-time study at any time. I hope that helps to answer that question.
That was a great answer. Thanks. Can I work in Canada while I'm studying?
This is another common question we receive from students. And while you are studying in Canada, you may be eligible to work on campus, off campus, and or in a SFU required internship or co-op term. So I'm going to go through the eligibility requirements for each of these in the next few minutes. We'll start with on-campus work. If you meet certain requirements, which you'll see on this slide, you can work on campus without a work permit, so under your study permit, while you study. As per IRCC's definition, on campus means that the employment would take place in buildings within the boundaries of the SFU campus. So an on-campus employer might include the university, like if you have a TA or RA-ship here at SFU. It could also include yourself if you're self-employed located at the school, or a private business that provides on-campus services to the school. It can encompass a lot of different situations. You can review the full definition of what constitutes on-campus work on the IRCC website, the QR code at the bottom right of this slide. And to work on campus, you must first of all have a valid study permit. That study permit must include a condition on it stating that you may work or you may accept employment if eligible. To this point, it's really important that you check the conditions on your study permit when you receive it. If the conditions are not appearing on your study permit, like if you get the permit and there's no work conditions printed on it, or if they say that you're not authorized to work, you can always contact one of us, an international student advisor immigration specialist, and then we can help you with the process of updating your permit. It's also important to recognize that you need to be studying full-time at SFU in the term or terms that you wish to work on campus. And I also want to mention that you cannot start to work on or off campus under your study permit until your first term of study officially begins and you meet all IRCC requirements for the type of work that you intend to pursue. And finally, you will require what's called a social insurance number. We call it a SIN number for any work that you do in Canada. And this number is important because it's used for tax purposes and is also required for your employer to pay you. So in order to get this social insurance number, you would need to apply for it, and you will need to have a study permit that contains the work conditions I mentioned earlier, or a work permit to be able to apply for one. So we can move on to the off-campus work slide next. Thank you. To work off campus without a work permit under your study permit, in addition to being enrolled full-time in the term or terms you want to work and holding a valid study permit with work conditions printed on it, you must also be enrolled in a program at SFU that is at least 6 months in length and leads to a degree, diploma, or certificate. And for off-campus work, you will also require the social insurance number so that you can be paid and for taxation. If you meet the criteria to work off-campus under your study permit, you can work up to 24 hours per week off-campus during regular academic terms, and unless it is a regularly scheduled break. So during regularly scheduled breaks, if you're eligible, you can work on a full-time basis. I've included on this slide what constitutes a regularly scheduled break for SFU undergraduate students and SFU graduate students, and also a QR code to our website where you can read more about the criteria you need to meet to work full-time during a scheduled break. For undergraduate students, you will see that summer term can be considered a regularly scheduled break if the criteria are met. However, since full-time enrollment or full-time study at SFU is required in the academic term directly before and after the scheduled break, if summer 2026 is your first term of study at SFU, you would not be eligible to work full-time under your study permit under the regularly scheduled break criteria. So you would need to be enrolled full-time and meet IRCC's work eligibility criteria to work on campus and or off campus up to 24 hours a week if you intend or if you wish to work in the summer 2026 term under your study permit. So we can move to the next slide, please. We're going to finish off with co-op work or internship work. So some programs at SFU have a mandatory co-op internship or practicum, and if they don't, students can, if eligible, apply for what's called the co-op program at SFU. And in both these scenarios, students would need what's called a co-op work permit in order to do the required SFU co-op internship or practicum terms. You can apply for a co-op work permit in a few different ways. So it's possible to request a co-op work permit when you apply for your initial SFU study permit if your SFU letter of acceptance or your offer letter confirms that there's a work or internship requirement in your program. Otherwise, you can also apply for a co-op work permit from inside Canada once you get here and once you have your study permit, and it's an online application. Whether you apply for a co-op work permit in Canada or outside of Canada, it's important that you have documentation from SFU confirming that you're either in a co-op program or that there's a mandatory co-op internship or practicum in your studies. And it's important to mention that if you do have a co-op work permit for SFU, this is a type of work permit that you can only use for work that is an essential part of your program of study, and in terms that you are specifically enrolled in an SFU co-op internship or practicum term. So we can move to the next question, please.
Yeah. I'm very curious to ask this question. So, can I stay in Canada and work after I finish my studies at SFU?
So, yeah, this is also a common question we get from our students. And I guess it's really great that students do want to remain in Canada after they complete. Here, I'm going to be talking about the post-graduation work permit, which is one potential option that students can explore. It's certainly not the only option, but it's the most, I think, common pathway that our students will take once they complete their program of study. So full-time international students may be eligible to apply for a post-graduation work permit upon completing their program of study in Canada. And this work permit is an open work permit, meaning that it's not tied to a specific employer or a specific location or job. And it can be issued for up to 3 years in length. Applicants don't need a job offer or work experience to apply, but they do need to have completed an eligible program of study. Now, I know summer 2026 is just your first term of study at SFU, so I won't go too in depth about this work permit. However, there are a few points I want to highlight that might help with your planning, like your course planning. For example, if the post-graduation work permit is an eventual goal for you. So first of all, it's important to remember that you can only be issued a post-graduation work permit once. This is something you want to consider if you think or if you plan to complete further studies in Canada after your SFU program. Because if you were to apply for and obtain a post-graduation work permit, let's say after completing your SFU program, you wouldn't be eligible to apply for a second work permit after completing a second study program. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And secondly, there, of course, are a set of IRCC eligibility criteria that applicants must meet in order to, be eligible to get this post-graduation work permit. And in addition to completing a program of study that's eligible, applicants must have maintained full-time student status or full-time study during each formal academic term of their studies. So we can revisit the concept of formal academic term for immigration purposes that we talked about a few slides ago. For SFU undergraduate students, the spring term and the fall term are the formal academic terms. So from the post-grad work permit perspective, full-time study is required in these terms, spring and fall, for undergraduate students to maintain their eligibility for the post-grad work permit. For SFU graduate students, the spring, summer, and fall terms are the formal academic terms for immigration purposes. So again, looking at the post-grad work permit lens, full-time study is required in these terms to maintain eligibility for the post-grad work permit for graduate students. There are possible exceptions to the full-time requirement under the post-graduation work permit program that can be made by IRCC. For example, in your very last term of study, you can study part-time. And also there's an exception during a period of authorized leave from study. So given all these criteria, we recommend considering this when you're planning out your course schedules at SFU. And if you find yourself in a situation where you need to study part-time during a formal academic term, or if you need to take a term off or leave of absence, we recommend that you just contact us to discuss any potential immigration-related impacts, not just the post-grad work permit, but others as well. And we are definitely here to support you and help you navigate any of that. I've also included QR codes here for the IRCC website and our website if you did want to review the postgrad work permit eligibility criteria in full. I will say that because these criteria can change without notice, it's important to monitor these official websites for the most reliable and current information. And we also work really hard to share immigration-related updates with our students through our ISS newsletter. So please sign up for that and regular updates to our website as well. So I'm ready for the next question when you are.
Perfect. What documents do I need to carry when I travel to Canada?
So for those of you who are outside of Canada, we do have a list here of important documents that you'll want to make sure that you have with you. First of all, when traveling, you'll need to make sure you have your passport or your travel document and your study permit or your study permit approval, as well as your temporary resident visa, your TRV, or your electronic travel authorization if needed. We also recommend that you carry your SFU letter of acceptance or your SFU offer letter with you, and also an SFU confirmation of enrollment letter with you if you have it at the time of your travel. This letter is downloadable through your GoSFU account. You should also carry proof of available funds to support yourself and any family members that are accompanying you to Canada when you travel. And in addition, if you require an immigration medical exam, it's a good idea to carry this with you too. I always recommend that students pack these documents in their carry-on baggage so that you'll have easy access to them when you arrive in Canada, because you'll be going through immigration before you actually pick up your luggage, your checked luggage. You can also review the documents you should carry when traveling to Canada on the IRCC website and in our frequently asked questions or FAQ page dedicated to this topic by scanning the QR code on this slide. And I believe I mentioned this earlier, but I'll just say it again. If your study permit was approved from outside of Canada, it's going to be issued to you at the port of entry, like when you first enter Canada after you go through an examination with the Border Services officer. When you receive your study permit there at the port of entry, it's really a good idea, if you have time, to make sure you double check your permit for accuracy. So check your name, check your date of birth, check the conditions for working on the permit, just to make sure that everything looks okay. There are ways to amend or fix your permit afterwards, like once you're already in Canada, but if you can possibly have that conversation at the port of entry, it could be a real good time saver for you.
Yeah, those were some really good tips. Thank you for sharing that. And my last question to you is, what are my options in case my study permit is not approved in time?
Yes, and of course we hope that everybody's study permit is approved in plenty of time, but I can definitely appreciate how uncertain things can feel, especially given IRCC's fluctuating processing times. And from the Canadian immigration perspective, unless you fall under a study permit exemption category, you must have a valid SFU study permit to begin your in-Canada program of study. However, if your study permit is still under processing and you do not expect a decision in time to start your program in summer, you could consider the following options that we've listed here. Firstly, apply to defer your admission to the next available intake. So the International Services for Students Office is not directly involved with admission deferral at the university. And undergraduate students are directed to review the SFU deferral website for information about the application period and the process. So you'll see the 2 QR codes to the right of this slide for more information. It's important to review these websites that the QR codes will take you to, because they outline the deadlines for both regular deferrals and the deadlines for a deferral due to a study permit delay, as well as the step-by-step instructions for how you can actually request a deferral. There's also contact information on that page for international recruitment, which is the office where you can direct your deferral-related questions to. For students who are going to be transferring to us from Fraser International College or from FIC, if you're thinking that you might need to defer your admission, we are advising that you first contact FIC regarding your academic options. And instructions for how to do this can also be found on the SFU QR code that I've linked here for you. And then graduate students, if you're considering a deferral, you should reach out directly to your SFU department, and they will be able to discuss academic options with you, including admission deferral. We can go to the next slide, please. We've listed a few important considerations to keep in mind on this slide. So again, they all kind of relate to admission deferral and starting your program late. If you are the recipient of an entrance scholarship, award, or bursary, and you need to defer your admission, contact the Financial Aid and Awards Office to understand whether any of your awards might be impacted by this deferral. It's also important to note that deferrals are not guaranteed. And for that reason, it is advisable to continue with the enrollment process, but just to ensure that you drop any registered courses prior to the start of the academic term if your deferral is approved. And this is recommended so that you can avoid any financial and/or academic penalties. Another thing you may wish to consider is to check with your instructors to discuss the feasibility of you starting your courses late, although we do not advise starting your program beyond week 2, because as you may or may not be aware, like the university learning pace is very, very fast, and there can be a lot of work to catch up on, even if you just miss one week of school. So it's something to consider if you think the approval is coming or if you're just kind of waiting for your visa to be stamped on your passport. But just do be mindful that it's typically not recommended to start beyond week 2. If you're considering starting your courses late and you have approval from your instructors to do so, we always want to remind students to consider, study permit approvals are not all guaranteed. I wish they were, but they're not. And if your study permit is not approved in time to start your studies in summer 2026, it'll be really important for you to be mindful of course add drop deadlines and the tuition refund deadlines for that term. And if you do find yourself in a situation which you're unsure, if you're kind of considering one option, but you don't know, like immigration-wise, how that might impact you, please do reach out to us and we can advise you regarding your options. From the immigration standpoint, we can also refer you to the appropriate university office to advise you further if that's needed, okay? Because I know it is going to be like a lot to think about if you are in that situation. I think I'm at the end of my questions now. And thank you so much for listening to me. And if you ever have any questions whatsoever, you're more than welcome to reach out to us, and we'll always do our best to help and support you. And we'll see you at the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Karen, for your helpful tips, resources, and everything you just shared. And with that, we'll cover our second topic for this presentation, which is medical insurance, which will be done by Ishani. So Ishani, my first question to you is, how does it work?
Yes, thanks, Akshita. So medical insurance is another important topic that you need to be aware of while you're studying at SFU. So as international students, you must have a proper medical insurance for the entire duration of your studies. And if you also have any family members accompanying you, they also need to make sure that they have proper coverage during their stay in Canada. So medical services can be really expensive if you don't have proper insurance coverage. For example, the MSP website indicates that hospital costs alone can exceed $1,000 a day if you don't have insurance. So it's in your best interest as well as it's your responsibility to ensure that you have proper coverage at all times. So there's actually 2 types of insurance. Sorry, I forgot to show it to the slide. But so there's 2 types. There's primary and secondary insurance. And together, they make up your comprehensive coverage. And the first 2 points just emphasize that you need to make sure that you have coverage while you're studying at SFU.
Yeah, that's great to know. And my second question is, what is the difference between primary and secondary insurance?
Yes, great question. So primary insurance covers medically necessary services. So those would be things like doctor's visits, hospital stays, diagnostic tests, if you ever have to have a lab test or a blood test. So all those medically necessary services would be covered under primary medical insurance. And secondary medical insurance, the two plans are kind of complementary. So the secondary insurance covers services that your primary medical insurance plan does not. So those would be things like dental services, vision care, extended health benefits such as prescription drugs, physiotherapy, massage therapy, counseling, and so forth. And we'll talk about both plans in a bit, which takes us to our next topic.
Now that we know that there are two types of insurances, let's first talk about primary medical insurance. So, my question third is, what is the main primary medical insurance plan?
Yes. So BC Medical Services Plan, or BCMSP, is a provincial medical insurance plan, and this would be your main primary medical insurance plan as well. So it is a legal requirement for everyone who lives in BC for longer than 6 months to enroll in this plan, including international students as well. So new students should apply for BCMSP right away as soon as they arrive in BC. And there's roughly a waiting period of 3 months before your MSP plan will be effective. So SFU provides a temporary plan to cover this waiting period, which we'll talk about in a bit. But essentially, if you're a brand new student, make sure you apply for BCMSP as soon as you arrive in BC. You can apply for BCMSP using the BCMSP website. This QR code on the slide will take you to that website. You do need to have a study permit that's valid for at least 6 months or longer to be able to apply for BCMSP as well. So if you do have any dependents, they can be added to your plan when you apply, or they can also apply themselves and maintaining a separate account too. And then once your BCMSP is effective, you will start getting a monthly invoice. So there is a $75 international student health fee assessed to all study permit holders. So once your BCMSP is effective, you'll get a monthly invoice and you can make your payments online using a credit card, or you can also set up debit, like pre-authorized debit payments as well. So it is not part of your SFU fees. So a couple of things I would like to emphasize is that you need to actually manually apply for BCMSP, and it cannot be done through SFU, and none of the fees associated with your MSP will be shown on your SFU charges. So just to clarify that. And once you get your MSP coverage as well, please make sure that you keep your MSP account updated. So your MSP will generally be valid only for the length of the study permit that you apply for your MSP with. So each time you get a new study permit, or if you obtain a post-graduation work permit in the future, please make sure that you update your MSP account with those new permits as well. And if you're currently in between study permits, if your current study permit has expired, it's going to expire soon, you can request for temporary MSP coverage while you're waiting for your new study permit to be issued. And then once you get your new study permit, you can update your MSP for the length of that study permit as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great to
that's it.
know.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious to know, how do I get coverage while I'm going through the MSP waiting period?
Yes. So very briefly alluded to this. So essentially your BCMSP does take 3 months to be effective from when you first arrive. So SFU provides a temporary primary medical insurance plan called GuardMe. And this plan is meant to cover you for that waiting period, only for your first term, should you need any medical services while you're waiting for your BCMSP to be effective. So it's provided only for your first term. So as a student starting the summer term, it'll be effective from May 1st to August 31st of this year. And we will not be enrolling you in any subsequent in subsequent terms. And so you'll be automatically enrolled, and the cost for this plan will be included in your summer 2026 fees, which will be $281. So closer to the start of the term, you will receive an email from GuardMe directly, and it'll give you a link to access your GuardMe portal online. So once you get this portal, you can log in to access your healthcare card, view any policy details, and also submit any claims. And if you do have any dependents, they can also be added to your GuardMe plan at the beginning of the term at an additional cost. So as I mentioned earlier, your plan will be valid from May 1st onwards. But if you're thinking about coming to BC earlier than that to get yourself settled in, you can also purchase earlier hours insurance on the GuardMe website. It costs $2.30 per person per day, and this is to make sure that there aren't any gaps in your insurance coverage once you arrive in BC. And it's also possible that some of you already have BCMSP because you could be transferring from FIC or another post-secondary institution. You've already been living here for a while. So if you already do have BCMSP, you can opt out for your GuardMe plan. So you can just visit the GuardMe website online and just provide proof of your MSP coverage. So to receive the full refund, you need to opt out by May 30th. And then if you're a brand new resident of BC, you should apply for BCMSP right away. So the earlier it is effective, like the sooner you can opt out of your GuardMe plan as well if you have not used your GuardMe plan. So just to make sure, you can apply for either a full refund or partial refund as long as you have valid BCMSP coverage. But in either case, to be eligible for a refund, you must have not used your GuardMe plan.
Okay, that's great to know. And according to you, Ishani, what are some key takeaways regarding primary insurance?
Yes, so that was a lot of information just about primary medical insurance alone. So we talked about two different plans. So the three major points that I really want to whittle down to is that your GuardMe plan is temporary. So it is provided only for your first term. Sometimes it's a misconception students have that they will have GuardMe throughout their time at SFU because that was the case in their previous institution or something like that. But just remember, your GuardMe plan is temporary. It is only for your first term. And MSP is a legal requirement. You need to make sure that you will have valid MSP coverage once your GuardMe plan expires after your first term to make sure that you're protected from any unexpected health emergencies. So make sure that you apply for BCMSP as soon as you arrive. And then once you get your BCMSP as well, please make sure that you keep your MSP account updated and make sure that you stay on top of your payments. Update MSP if you move so they have your most recent information and just stay on top of managing your account.
Okay, so we have learned a lot about primary medical insurance, and now it's time to learn about the secondary medical insurance. So my first question related to that is, what is my secondary insurance plan?
Yes, so as a reminder, so secondary insurance covers services that your BCMSP plan does not. So those would be things like dental care, vision care, travel benefits, and extended health benefits, such as counseling, medication, massage therapy, and so forth. So undergraduate students receive this plan through the SFSS Health and Dental Plan. And then graduate students receive it through the GSS Health and Dental Plan. So it's the student societies that are kind of overseeing the administration of this plan. So that's why they are referred to as the SFSS Health and Dental Plan for undergraduate students and GSS Health and Dental Plan for the graduate students. And the plan provider is Student Care, which will be rebranded as Illumos. There's a lot of different names involved for the same plans, but essentially the plan providers, so if you hear the Student Care or the SFSS or the GSS Health Plan, they are all referring to your secondary insurance plan. So just another reminder or maybe a clarification. Sometimes students confuse this plan that they receive through SFU. They think that is their primary medical insurance. They can use this to go visit a doctor or go to a hospital, but that's not the case. This is our secondary insurance plan. You still need to enroll in your BCMSP, which is your primary medical insurance plan. And to access some benefits of the secondary insurance plan, you also need to have BCMSP, so they kind of go hand in hand. So just don't confuse the two. Make sure you apply for BCMSP, and then you will also have the secondary insurance plan to complement the services that's covered through BCMSP.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that point. And next question is, how do I get this insurance coverage?
Yes. So students will automatically be enrolled in this plan every fall term. So I just want to emphasize on the fall term because the plan will be valid from September 1st of 2026. And it's an annual plan, so it'll run all the way through August 31st of next year. So I'll talk about what happens in the summer term just in a bit, but this is just also the rough plan cost. So this is based on the current policy year. So they haven't updated the cost for the next academic policy year, but I just want to mention these costs just for you to get an idea of, how much they might be. So in the fall term, you'll be automatically enrolled for an entire year, and it'll keep renewing as long as you keep taking classes every fall term. And if you also have any dependents, or if you want to opt out because you have equivalent coverage, you can do so during a specific time period in the fall term. But as a student studying in the summer term, you actually won't be enrolled in automatically just for the summer term. But if you think you need coverage just for the 4 months that you'll be starting off with, you do have the option to self-enroll. And to self-enroll, you actually have to visit the student care website. There's a QR code here, and then you can opt out you can self-enroll anytime between May 4th until May 22nd. So it's a little bit of a caveat. It's because the summer is a quiet term. I'm not sure exactly the reasoning why you won't be automatically enrolled in the summer term. But just as a reminder, so you'll be automatically enrolled in the fall term. But if you need coverage in the summer term, feel free to go ahead and self-enroll. It's optional. It's just depending on your needs.
Mhm. That's good to know. And my last question to you, Ishani, is where can I find more information about my secondary insurance plan?
Yes, so the student care website has a lot of great information. So it's got the comprehensive plan details. It kind of breaks down by what's covered under the different categories. So that's a great starting place. It also has access to the change of coverage portal if you're thinking about enrolling in the summer for yourself, or if you want to add any dependents. And in the fall term, if you want to opt out, you can also use the change of coverage portal on their website. And you can also learn about discounts that they have with various service providers too. They also have an office in the Student Union building at the Burnaby campus if you would just want to pop by, ask any clarifications. So we at ISS don't actually have access to your student care files, but if you have any specific information, you can go over to the campus office and speak with someone in person as well. And you can also check out the assistance center online. You'll be able to speak to a live agent and get your questions clarified as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Ishani, for covering a much needed topic and giving us all the resources that we need before we begin our journey in SFU. And now we have Ricky on the panel who will be guiding us on the topic your health and wellness while at SFU. So, Ricky, my first question to you is what's available at Health and Counseling Services?
Yes, thanks. So yeah, it's really important to take care of yourself during your studies. It's a long journey. So here at Health and Counseling, we have doctors available to help with all your medical needs, whether that is cold or flu or more serious concerns to mental health and wellness, they're able to support you. We also have nurses that can help with any vaccinations or testing that you may need. We also have mental health nurses that can provide coping skills during those really stressful exam periods or interviews or anything you may have. And of course, we have counselors that are available to provide mental health support. And then there's me, the transition case manager.
Oh, talking about case manager, I'm so curious to know about this role, Ricky. What is the role?
Yeah, so a little bit about my role. It's very unique in supporting students from international pathways and their transition here at SFU. I would like to say like life is never nice and tidy. It's super messy. So what I try to do is provide practical support and assistance in helping students with understanding the different processes, whether that's the medical system, the education system, culture shock, stress management, social supports. It's just life about SFU. I also run art groups to help people de-stress called Creative Collective, located at the Global Student Center. You can make an appointment to see me at Health and Counseling, or if you feel more comfortable, you can drop in at the Global Student Center to see me.
Okay, that's great to know. And as an international student myself, what happens if we cannot, help, like if we cannot figure things out on our own? Like, how can you help us?
Yeah, so if you've got a situation that I may not be able to figure things out, I will try my best to look at other resources or supports both on and off campus that we can connect you to that can help figure things out. Even if I can't help you, I'll send you to someone that can provide support. In a way, I'm just trying to be here to help navigate you to the best of your ability so that you can have a good journey here at SFU.
Okay, thanks for that. And my question is, Are the services free?
Yeah, we want to save some money, right, as a student? So doctor's visits are free as long as you have medical insurance. So if you have MSP or GuardMe, it's covered and you're enrolled in classes, you can see the doctors. Our mental health nurses and doctors are also free of charge. That can help you as long as you're an enrolled student. And then for my support, of course, it's all free. I can even see students during a semester break to help you get organized for the upcoming semester.
Mm-hmm. That's great to know. Thanks for that. And my next question is my information kept confidential? And what does that mean?
Yeah, good question about health records and everything. So,
Mhm.
confidentiality means that without your permission, we are not able to share your information outside of Health and Counseling Office. That means no one from the registrar's office, not even ISS, has information about what you're doing here at Health and Counseling. We do want to let you know that in extreme cases where there is a concern for you or safety of another person, then we may need to share your information to make sure that you're safe and everyone's being taken care of.
Okay, that's very helpful to know. And the next question is, what are some practical wellness tips during transition?
Yeah, great question. I know everyone's excited to come to SFU, but there's also, some things that you might want to try during your first semester. First thing is routines. I know everyone keeps talking about routines, but they work. When midterms start, finals start, and everything, it's really important to keep up with your sleep, making sure you're eating well, sleeping well, and you're taking breaks. So following a routine is really important. Secondly, it's making time for things. Your well-being is more than just one thing. It's your physical, emotional, social, and spiritual health. So don't stay in your room. Even studying at the library or at a cafe can do wonders for you. Keep up with your movement, connect with others, do whatever else you may need. And lastly, it's things don't go the way you predicted. And that's okay. We all imagine things going in a certain way, and when it doesn't, it's definitely challenging and stressful. That's why we're here. Don't bottle things up inside. Come by, talk to us, and see how we can support you during your journey.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ricky, for sharing the tips about wellness. And I hope the students will also come up to you if they have any doubts in their heads. And also, I want to officially thank you that everyone on the panel, and also wanted to let you know that we have covered all the parts of the session. And with that, I want to make a special announcement. So we are having an International Student Welcome Social that is happening on May 21st. It's a great way to meet other international students and also hear from staff about tips, experiences, and what helped them succeed in their own student life. It's going to happen from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. So please mark that on your calendars. And if you haven't already registered for this session, please scan the QR code on the screen. We encourage you to register for this as early as possible so you don't miss out on your spot. And now we will be ending the recording. For those who are watching the recording and have questions, please connect with us if you have any questions. And yeah, it's time for our live Q&A session. You can type